Welcome, everybody. This is Hugh Massie, the chairman and founder of DNA Behaviour International. And today I'm delighted to be hosting another identity conversation. And I've got with me Alta Odendaal from South Africa. And Alta is very experienced in the financial services industry and currently works as a financial strategist, coach, as an expert in behavioral finance, and has been human behavior, has been doing this work for around 20 years now. So, Alta, it's a great pleasure to have you with me this afternoon.
Thank you, Hugh. And it's great, the work that you've been doing around the world, and I'm glad to meet you. And thanks for the opportunity.
No, that's a pleasure. So, Alta, why don't you start by just telling us, and when I say us, me and the listeners, you know, your life journey and how you've got to this place of being a financial coach.
Thanks, Hugh. Yes, I think just to start off with is I'm a farm girl from Nelspruit in South Africa. And I actually went to university. I studied a BSc. I started my journey with that, actually. I completed a BSc degree. Not a lot of people know that. And then I went overseas and I did the normal thing that a normal South Africa did in those days, is to go and live in London for 2 years, to go and also explore the world. I mean, that was always one of my dreams, is to explore the world. And when I explored London, lived there for 2 years, I started seeing, you know, that people actually live with different belief systems, you know, and, I love traveling. I love exploring the world. And, so I did mostly training in London. And for colleges, I've always been an educator, love, empowering people through education and coaching. And after 2 years, I came back. And I actually continued in the education space. And then at one stage I was thinking, sure, but, instead of education for institutions, I would love to do it, for corporate environments. And I actually started in the marketing space and sales, which was very comfortable for me. And I actually continued my studies. I actually switched then to when I started working for one of the major companies in South Africa. I started as a financial advisor. And, in those days, we just do product training and you do a little bit of sales and coaching training, sales strategy. And I continued on that journey and joined later one of the major banks in South Africa. And I continued on, being a facilitator really. And I continued with my certified, advanced, program in advanced risk management, and becoming a certified financial advisor. And then I continued and I specialized actually in estate planning and risk planning at the University of Free State. So through the years in my corporate career, I actually trained most of the advisors on estate planning, tax planning. I also helped compliance, looking at what is the risks involved for the major financial advisors. And towards the end of my corporate career, I also helped to establish a academy where we've actually trained, advisors to, taking them from university where they've completed a BCom degree, for example, do the selection process around South Africa. And then we've trained them, put them in a classroom, for 6 months, did the supervision training, and then actually placed them out around South Africa. So as part of this whole concept of really empowering people in South Africa. And that was my journey into financial planning, how I ended up here, and really my journey of being a financial transformational coach and leader is that there was one thing that sometimes, I could not understand, is that we actually, you can train somebody and you can give them all the knowledge, but that the personality plays a huge role in, the financial success of any client. So, yeah, that was a little bit about my career, my journey up to now.
So really, and I think as you've said to me elsewhere, the success in financial planning, wealth creation really comes from the inside out. It's the inside game that you play, and that's what all of us have got to learn to manage. But we don't all necessarily want to go to that place in doing that.
Yes, and I think one thing that I can just mention is, the logical side was always there. It was very easy for me, from a logical perspective, to train people. And I mean, we've worked through, profiling, personality profiling, Strengths Finder, Myers-Briggs. I mean, we all know the different types of assessments that we use in recruitment. It was always, one person will be more of a risk when they in that selling mode, and some people conservative, and too fearful because they want to do the right thing and they almost in analysis paralysis.
Yeah.
So there's that procrastination of, I can't sell anything because I'm actually too analytical. And then on the other side, in the financial services industry, where we get people, they're selling without doing the, financial needs analysis. And where do we get the perfect blend of a financial advisor that will still do the, financial needs analysis, but also understanding the client on a much deeper level?
Yeah, and I think the industry is moving to that place now, and you've been in the industry for a long time. The industry is moving to that place to want to understand the human being at the deeper level, to see those differences, whether it's the advisor to understand themselves better, the firm should want to understand the advisors they have out on the street serving clients, and the advisor should want to understand the clients a whole lot better. And, I think that's a place that we're getting to. But, if you also look at your career, it's probably very significant, Alta, that you've always had an education slant to everything that you've done.
Mm-hmm.
It seems that you've reverted back to that through all through the journey that you've had from going to college, really right through to today. Education is a big part of what you've done, even though you've been a planner.
Yeah, my passion is actually to empower people. Yes, so 100% right.
It's interesting that when I was an accountant originally, and then I became a wealth manager with my own firm. And one day a friend asked me, Hugh, what are you really passionate about? And I said, I want to help people all over the world become self-empowered. And that has driven me ever since. And I knew that it was not teaching people from a financial literacy point of view about stocks and bonds and how instruments work and what's a good deal or a bad deal. It was to teach them about themselves.
Yeah, no, 100%.
And so is that what's driving you now to, you got out of being the chief compliance officer at a bank, you've seen all the transactions, you've seen the good and bad things advisors do. What made you jump out of the bank and go to being, this extraordinary financial coach?
Well, I think, at some stage, I think, while I was giving advice to clients and also trying to help financial advisors understand clients, there was one point where I said to myself, we're not managing money, we're managing behaviors of individuals. Because why can some clients, just take my advice and, as a coach, you feel like a failure. if you give advice to somebody else and they're not taking your advice, they're not implementing your solutions, and at the end of the day, they're not getting the results. And I think it was, you've got a self-reflection on yourself and you say, what's wrong with you? Or what's wrong with me? And why some clients will listen to you, take your advice, and they really see the success, they experience the success, and they get to the financial goals that they've set for themselves. And then why other people just can't stick to a budget. I mean, they can't stick to a budget. And, one moment they're doing this and they've got the goals going, and the next moment, they're deviating again from the goals. And I think one thing that's very important, I always say to clients, a budget is your freedom plan, it's your spending plan. And it's really there to take out the emotions out of financial decisions. Because, I've worked with a lot of couples in marriages. It's a partnership agreement. It's the same as a business. Do you want to run a business with another partner that's, financially irresponsible, not committed, you can't trust the person? So it's really, what do I understand of any other human being, and what is my strengths and my gifts, and how can we take out the emotions out of the financial decision process? But then if you go and you delve deep into the subconscious mind, and Carl Jung's got a saying that say until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. And we've got beliefs, and our beliefs create our reality. And how do we change those beliefs? Because we all got different beliefs that's holding us back. And it's really fears. And it's fears of insecurity. It's fears of we're not born with high confidence and high self-esteem. We all need to work through 95% of our own insecurities and our own fears. Because 5% is strategy and 95% is psychology, and really fears of our own insecurities that's keeping us stuck. So the unconscious mind or the subconscious mind and the unconscious mind, but really the subconscious mind and how that's directing your life. It really changed my life. It was a pivotal moment when I did NLP, and I could understand that this is, how my thought patterns and my belief systems was created through survival and fear. And how do I move and shift that into, in the abundance and the love, and really to see what's possible, and how can I increase my, psychological responses? Because that's really what we're trying to do, is we train ourselves to be able to receive more. Because otherwise, if we're not prepared to receive more, we push it away, because it becomes too fearful for us. And it's really to work with the subconscious mind, and that is really determining everything in our lives.
Yeah, it is that subconscious mind that we need to get to, and that's where the instinctive behaviors, a lot of them sit. And I've always just rationalized a lot of this down to that at the end of the day, money follows behavior. But the energy of money can trigger behaviors as well, both positive and negative. And so the two have got to travel together in sync and in alignment. And I think you've been doing a lot of work on helping people discover that for themselves, and to own it, so that they can bring into their life their maximum potential, whether that's just straight out in achievements or is financial as well, and life abundance. So Alta, tell me about how you've been using financial DNA with this. And just for our listeners, DNA behavior has a process called financial DNA, and you can take your own at financialdna.com. Alta has been working with this with our systems for a little while now with clients who go through it. But if any of you listening want to go and complete it for yourself, you can go to financialdna.com and do a trial. But so Alta, just just going back to my question of how you use financial DNA when you're working with an advisor or helping an advisor work with their clients.
Yeah, Hugh, thanks for the question, and yeah, thanks for the opportunity. I really think it's a great tool, and it's really talking to the financial advisor out there, but also to every single client out there to understand how they can manage their emotions, and also to actually realize what is their blind spots, what are they missing in life, how do their natural or financial DNA is impacting on their own success. And what was really, when I started working with the financial DNA, what was really grateful for me is to see that I'm really conservative, but I'm taking, really calculated risks for clients, and also for myself. But I know that that is also holding me back from my subconscious fears. And as a reflective thinker, I think that's exactly the reason why I look at emotions, because I realized as a reflective thinker that it is not the fear of lack of knowledge that I can't manage money, but it's the fear of emotional fear that's actually keeping me stuck and in that scarcity mode. So, just to come back to the financial DNA, I can see risks. I can really look at, risks, and what helped me a lot from the financial DNA is also to see what I need, and it's always good for a financial advisor and for any client out there to understand who will they match with, because it doesn't help, I'm trying to help you, and it's almost like we're in a total different paradigm, or our thought patterns and belief systems is totally different. So it's also to see, what is the changes that you need to make, where's your blind spots, and how you can adapt, and to really identify where's the risk areas. If I give advice to clients, where maybe I'm a little bit too conservative, and, we need to take a little bit more of risk for other clients right now. Helping advisors, but also to help advisors in the process, because I think, to really say we know our clients. And I mean, if you look at the, 6-step process of financial planning, the very first step is to say we know our clients. And if I say I know my client, I need to understand what is his fears around money, what is his core motivations for making financial decisions, the way he's doing that. And I think that's something that's still lacking, that we're not doing, in the financial planning process. So, for clients that you really, you're not doing that once-off financial needs analysis, and you really want to add value to their lives, you want to make sure that they're achieving their financial goals, the financial DNA will give the tool of how to communicate with this client. How much research and knowledge do they need to have? Do they want to be in control of their money? Because, I mean, we also get people that want to be in control of their money. And how can I help them then to take a little bit more of control, but guiding them as to what is the steps that they need to take? So I think it's just a brilliant tool for awareness of making more conscious financial decisions and taking the emotion out of it. Because we all want to make conscious financial decisions. And if we've got the knowledge, we just need to manage our emotions. And it's to understand the blind spots of where are we going to have a friction, maybe with a financial advisor, and why is the friction? And I think for any financial advisor out there that's not understanding his clients, I mean, they have to use this tool. And any client that feels that, listen, my advisor is not doing, because sometimes what clients will do, and we all know it, they feel at some stage that, they hear around, advisors doing this for me or that for me, but they never ask the advisor. So for any client out there listening, you know, it's a great tool to understand this, and then to know, listen, what do you need to expect from an advisor if you work with an advisor? And I think that's brilliant because it covers both sides.
That was always, Alta, that's great that you said that. That was always one of my goals in bringing the process to the table, was to make the financial planning process a much more level process, so that the relationship between the advisor and the client would become more equal. You know, and that's part of empowering the clients, I think, to question themselves, to look at themselves, to come up with better questions, to push, in a way, to push the advisor a bit harder, but also equip the advisor with more knowledge as well. And, you know, at the end of the day, when you talk about the 6 steps of financial planning and really knowing your client and all about your client, not just how much money they have, is at the top. Step 1, if what goes in, the data that goes in at the end of the day is wrong, everything else in the process is going to be wrong. And, you know, that's I think that's a fundamental part of this. And also, you know, just emphasizing this, having the profile and knowing that every person's different, knowing where to start the conversation with each person is different. You sort of said it, you telegraphed it for yourself, or for our listeners, that you're a reflective thinker, but you're an extremely cautious, calculated decision maker. And comes with that fears. And, you know, I've seen people with your style, Alta, have a fear of not having enough money. And that even though they might have a lot of money, they have a fear of not having enough. And, you know, I'm not asking you how much you have, but you nodded. I imagine that is could be a pretty impactful question if we decided to go down that path and ask you questions. But, you know, for another person, it might be, you know, what would you give up for success? Or you know, what success would you give up for a happy life? You know, and there's a challenging question for each of us that gets us to our core, that relates to the strongest part of our profile. And we somewhat addressed yours. For you. But, you know, just to wrap up on this a little bit, you love educating people. You've got a very deep knowledge of life, what drives, motivates people, a lot of experience in wealth management across all the segments of it. But what makes you, being Alta Odendaal, different to everybody else? You know, what's your standout identity factor, if you want to call it that, or your X factor as a coach, as a financial coach?
It comes back to the question that you just asked me, is you know, and I mentioned it to someone yesterday in a meeting, to say, you know, we will have always clients that will have all the abundance in the world, but they will still think that it's not enough, and it doesn't matter what is in the bank account, and that's the way we think. And it comes back to also, then we can have people that's got all the money in the world, but they don't have anything in the, you know, they show that they've got a lot of money, you know, but they don't have anything.
They're miserable.
So, and it's really the opposites. And what I want to say, one thing to the listeners, and I actually picked it up on my financial DNA, that my lifestyle expenses, you know, you know, your spending desire is very low. And, you know, it's true for me. I'm not a materialistic person, but I like to experience things. And if I can, message that I want to tell everybody out there is that we actually got a relationship with ourselves, and we've got a relationship with money. And if we change our relationship with money, we will also change our relationship with ourselves. So if we go and we change the roots of who we are as individuals, and we understand that on a very deep subconscious level, we will also change our reality. And that's really my message for everybody out there. I think sometimes people are very scared and they're fearful, but to live our authentic selves is really, I think, the greatest gift that we can give anybody. is to be vulnerable and to say, listen, this is who I am, and we can make more conscious decisions, because if we're living in a fearful world, we think it is only me and it's my fears. But the moment I actually start engaging with other people, I get different perspectives, I get different input from other people, and that's where the beauty is. I mean, that's where we create a lot of magic out in the world. And I really want to take hands with people that can create more magic. And to change the money stories is to go back to the roots. And, for everybody out there, I think, is to really question your beliefs around money, beliefs around your personality type, your beliefs around your emotions, and make sure you understand that, because we live our lives on autopilot, and we must be much more intentional, in living our lives. And that's my core message to anybody out there.
Yeah, I think it's a great message. And if I distill that down, do you see it as that you are a money story changer or change agent or transformer, or perhaps the bigger word or the bigger phrase that's linked to that is, transforming people's relationship to money? But they seem to me to be the two interwoven concepts. But I think that being a money a money story transformer or a money story change agent is, something that's very easy for people to understand.
Yeah. Yes.
Because then it comes to it is after that is, okay, we've got to change. If people want to change their money story so they can have a better life, then they need to change their relationship to money. And that's where they start addressing themselves. So it seems to me that, changing people's money stories is the fundamental thing here.
Yeah, no, definitely.
And all the Alta, all the work you've done as an educator from, being a young woman leaving school, going to England, coming back to South Africa, going through the financial services industry, it all leads up to that. But if I look at it, that's what you do. The tools and things you use, they help. I know they help you get there with people and for them to see it. But that seems to me what you're doing for a lot of people there in South Africa, whether it's an advisor. And in a way, advisors have got to change their own money story if they're going to succeed with their clients. Because you talked about authenticity. You cannot do this if you haven't gone there with a client, if you haven't gone there first with yourself. And that's a journey.
Yeah, it's a journey. And it's such a profound thing. And I want to say something. I work with advisors, and sometimes they say to me, but Alta, how do I deal with a client, where the husband is saying, listen, my wife must not know about this money. And I'm asking them, what is the subconscious fears around this? That is what we need to go into, because somewhere along the line, if you're not addressing those fears or boundaries, or, for me, it's financial infidelity, and we get it all around us. It's really, there's fear around it, there's deep pain around it, but you can transform it. I mean, but one thing is important is that you need to walk the journey in order to help other clients. And I think if we can just start with that around the world, as financial advisors, we can really change the world, because we work with people and their money. And it's a brilliant tool.
You just used a term, Alta, a minute ago, financial infidelity. Something I haven't used that term in quite a while, but it's what I always believed is a risk between husband and wives, particularly, or even inside businesses, is because of these fears, and then people make a silly decision, and then it leads to potentially real infidelities of whatever ways that you want to think that might be. But financial infidelity is a big problem, or a catalyst to other problems a lot of the time, which is triggered by fear.
Yeah, Yeah. Yeah.
So as we wrap up, Alta, is there anything else that you'd like as a concluding comment to say to our listeners, a tip, a book to read, anything you'd like them to do?
Yeah, there's so many books that I've read over the years, that really changed my, beliefs around money. Also, the conscious levels and how it will increase, money consciousness. So, but yeah, there's, Napoleon Hill, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, there's a lot of books that financial advisors do not read. They read the financial technical books of estate planning and tax planning, but they don't go into the deeper psychology of money. And I think there's a lot of information right now available. People is becoming more aware of it. And I think the last thing that I want to say is I think COVID is here to give us wake-up calls and to ask ourselves, why do we have these fears? How do I manage my emotions? And people is really getting to know their fears, during these fearful times. And they're not to look outside for answers, but look inside yourself. Is why does this emotions come up, and how can I transform that? How can I live with that? Because it's got critical messages for us. I always say to people, your triggers is your gift. So if somebody else is triggering you, ask yourself, don't blame the outside world, move inside, because you've got work to do. So, I think that's really my message, is to do the inner work. People need to start doing the inner work in order to see the change on the outside.
Yeah, I think this is a great time for everybody to reset their lives in COVID. We've all got a little bit more time and space to do it. It's a different environment. And I think for advisors to read the types of books, Alta, that you're mentioning would be a good thing to do, because it creates different conversation points with the clients, and out of there are questions, because I think at the end of the day, your success as an advisor is the ability to ask the right question at the right time. And anytime that change has come in my life is when someone's asked me a critical question at the right time, and I've had the aha moment, and I get on with it. And I think that's what triggers change. And an advisor can be a great catalyst for change with people. But if you just ask some technical estate planning questions and instrument questions, you're not going to get there. But if you ask some life questions, you will.
No, definitely. I totally agree with that, Hugh. And I think it's spending the time. If we prepare to listen to clients, they will give us core messages, and we can help them to move past their own fears and insecurities. And to understand it. If you can't help them, at least understand it, and you then use the financial DNA tool to understand, how do they think, how do they feel, what do they need, to actually communicate on a deeper level, and to help them really from a compassion, kind and loving way.
Yep, absolutely. So thank you, Alta, for spending time with me today. It's been fantastic, and I hope all the listeners to this, wherever they are in the world, not just South Africa, but everywhere in the world, will get a lot of benefit out of listening to the wisdom from Alta.
Thanks, Hugh. I want to say to you and your team, from the day I started actually, working with the tool and seeing the tool, I really think it's magic. I think really everybody and the support that you're providing, it's really also from the experiences that I've had with the company, and also the tool and how it can help people. Thanks also for the great work that you're doing out in the world. I really appreciate that.
That's a pleasure.